conquer and we're going to take some. Is that understood? Yes, sir. That's what we're going to do, sweethearts. We are going to go and get some. All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! What are you?
In the July issue of EP magazine, read about adaptive sports and recreation. There is also a special military section each month. You can read this issue and past archive issues for free by signing up for EP at www.epmagazine.com.
Monotony. It comes in all shapes and sizes. Dull, tedious, just plain boring. But what is this? A contender, perhaps? Something unboring by the looks of it. Jabs right at dull, an uppercut to tedium, something that keeps you on your toes, keeps your head on a swivel, a knockout punch to your old, boring workouts. Welcome to Fight Camp.
Hello and welcome back to Oscar Mike Radio. This is part of the Countdown to 500. Very special time for me and the show and everybody who supports me. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asack of Asack Real Estate, Danielle Rocco of Echo 6, and my supporters, Cason Shaving Company, Exceptional Parent Magazine, and Fight Camp. Be your strongest combination. Just an exciting time for Oscar Mike Radio. And my next guest is going to embody that. And we're going to hear a different part of the military story. And then, what she has done after the military and how this all ties together. I want to welcome my guest, Deborah Green, to Oscar Mike Radio. Debbie, hey you. How are you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your patience, but I'm glad to have you here now. And it's always great getting to talk to a female service member or a veteran. The last one I talked to served in the Royal Army in the UK, and it was a great conversation. So I'm looking forward to talking with you. What we start off with is tell us a little bit about yourself and how you went into the military, please.
Okay. Well, I'm started in in the military and ended up in law enforcement. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother. And turning back the way back machine, we'll go back to 1986 when I joined the military.
Okay.
As a communications specialist, because I wanted to be a military police officer, but at the time,
that?
I did. It was awesome, but back in 1986, they had height standards for females. So I couldn't go in directly as military police. So I had to kind of do that loophole thing. So once I was in, then I could transfer over to become military police, which I did. And I originally went in as a California National Guard.
Okay.
Then along my training ways, I got married, so I transferred to Texas and did Texas Army National Guard. Then came back in 1990 to California and rejoined my original unit.
Oh, wow.
And then became a military police officer between 1990 and 92. So
you served in the Guard for 6 years?
For 6 years, yes.
Okay. What was that experience like? I mean, was it this normal 2 weekends a month, 2 weeks a year?
Yeah, so you do a weekend a month, 2 days a month, and then 2 weeks a year. My first field exercise was in June in the middle of Fort Hood, Texas. Um, and when you take a California kid who into Texas, the humidity and the heat and everything, I my first 3 days I had heat stroke.
Yeah, it gets hot in Texas,
It
and
gets
everything's big
very
in
hot.
Texas.
Everything's big in Texas, yes. So I was part of uh, forward support unit in the 49th Armored Division, which was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. So that was kind of interesting. I was back there for a couple years and then moved back to California.
So
So,
I like asking women this, especially women who served. Like you went in right before, I did by a couple of years. What was the military like back then? Because, like a lot of things, things change and it's very different now.
um, so women weren't allowed into the regular military until the late 70s. So they had their own, the WACs and the waves. So it was
Yeah.
their Women's Army Corps and the women's auxiliaries. So, and I had been in Air Force ROTC, junior ROTC in high school. So it was that first experiences of allowing women in there, and I had nothing but positive
Oh,
experiences,
wow.
which was good. A lot of women at the time experienced a lot of uh, harassment, uh, not bigotry, but um, just not being considered
Equal.
equal,
Yeah.
and I was lucky enough to be in a unit that was very positive. So um, that really helped a lot, you know.
So you're serving during that time. I still got to go back and ask, like, what called you to the military police
Oh
MOS?
gosh. I came from a service-oriented family,
Yeah.
so I had a lot of people that served during World War II, Vietnam, Korea. Um, my father was in the National Guard. And what was funny was he was in the same unit I was, 30 years apart or 20 years apart. He went to when he was deployed, he went to the Watts riots down
Oh,
in
wow.
LA. My deployment was to the Rodney King riots. So so yeah, so it was kind of my father and I kind of had 20 years apart but the same experiences. But yeah,
Debbie,
so
what
I was called more to service-oriented industries because that's how I was raised. We gave back to the country.
what was it like going down to LA, your home country during the Rodney King riots? Because I remember watching that on TV and was like, what is going
Wasn't
on?
that the wildest thing? I mean, and at the time when they started, I was in the academy with Sacramento Police to become a dispatcher. So we're sitting there and they brought the TVs into our classroom and we're just sitting there watching it and I'm kind of like going, "Okay, I'm going to be getting a phone call anytime now," knowing that they would take me down and um that's actually what happened was they called where I was at and said, "Hey, we got to go." So that was interesting. And driving in when we first went in, our unit went into Long Beach
Yeah.
uh, to go in and just get things organized for them. The police were just having fits and starts. We drove in. There was a working fire on every block, active rioting and looting. So we got in there and we got everything secured, and then they moved us to become the security for Parker Center, which was the headquarters for LAPD at the time.
Were you sitting there with like a feeling of trepidation, like this is going to go crazy? Because I remember the fires, people were flipping cars. I remember the Koreans arming up on their rooftops, like getting ready to. I mean, they were serious about protecting what's theirs. It was just a crazy,
It
crazy
was
time with Debbie.
it was, and we were tasked at certain times to follow the fire units
Oh, yeah.
to go in and protect them from gunfire. because people would start fires, wait for the fire guys to come, and then start shooting. I mean, it was a crazy, crazy time. And you don't prepare for that when you go to basic training. They're teaching you in basic training to go against a foreign enemy, going to another country or being invaded by an enemy. You don't expect that enemy to be your own citizenry.
Even the I thought National Guard was trained to deal with like American
So
issue.
exactly. And so but you still go to basic training with regular
Sure, sure.
um you hit that basic training. And but when you get back, we weren't expecting, you don't expect this, you know. You expect more helping with natural disasters. California, we have a lot of earthquakes. Um, Loma Prieta is one where the National Guard was deployed to help out. That I guess it would be San Francisco, the earthquake in
I, I,
1989.
right where the
Um,
freeway fell on.
right, and L.A. when L.A. has had earthquakes, Northridge earthquake. Um, California utilizes the National Guard for forest fires, wildland fires,
Oh wow,
to help with that. But you don't expect the riots. And it's become, during my lifetime and since 1989, we've had more of the civil unrest, especially in the last 5 years. So, it just, but at the time, we hadn't had anything like that since the 1960s.
right, right. So you served in the National Guard for 6 years. You said you were trained to be a dispatcher. You did your 6 years and then transitioned out. Was the idea all along to do this stint in the National Guard and then be in another service capacity?
I wanted, um, I don't know, to be honest, it kind of fell in my lap.
Okay.
To be honest, so somebody said, "Hey, the sheriff's department's hiring." So I went in, 6,000 people were testing for, I don't know how many positions, but um then somebody said, "Hey, what about dispatch?" And I go, "Okay, I've been trained on radios and whatnot in the army, so why not?" And it kind of stuck. 28 years later, I retired. So
28 years.
28 years, yes.
So in a way, you're the first line of defense, if you will, for a community. You must have gotten all kinds of calls and situations that you've had to deal with daily.
Absolutely. You know, uh, you don't know what you're getting when you answer that 911 call. It could be, the 2-year-old playing on mommy's phone. It could be an old person that doesn't know how to change the batteries in their smoke alarm. It could be a stabbing, it could be a shooting, it could be a robbery. You just don't know. And um one thing I really like being a dispatcher is you're going into an office and every day it's something different. So you're not going in and have your stack of papers and you're doing the same job every single day. It's the same job but it's different every day.
Same job, different stuff every day. You have no idea what's coming over the phone line.
Right.
It's a different kind of service, right?
Yes. So I would consider dispatchers being the first responders because we're the first contact with anybody when they're needing that help. We're the ones that answer the phones, that disseminate the information, get it to the officers or the firefighters, get them moving to go handle the incident. And in many departments, dispatchers don't know how it ends.
Really?
So we will take the information, we'll get it out, we'll answer that next call and keep going. But it's a very rare thing to know how certain things will end per se. So luckily, I was in a department after Sacramento. I went to El Dorado County, and it was a small enough department that we could see how calls were ending, and weren't as busy as a larger department.
So you still have to see and get the law, whether it's firefighters, an ambulance, or law enforcement routed the right spot. You have to. Do you kind of go with them after the call, or is it just wondering what's going on, or is it just hang up the phone, the next call's coming in?
So at Sacramento, it was hang up the call, the next call's coming in.
Yeah.
During an 8-hour shift, I actually entered 100 calls for service. That wasn't actually the amount of call, that was less than the amount of calls I actually answered, but I entered into the CAD system, which is a computer aided dispatch, 100 calls for service in an 8-hour period with Sacramento.
So, 100,
That's a lot.
well, it's like
It's more than 10 calls
now,
entered an hour.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
mind you, that I had breaks and I had so it kind of condensed in, but you're answering phones, and a lot of times you have to stay on those calls with the caller until the officers arrive. So, like if you have a prowler or a shooting or a stabbing, you try to keep that person on the phone with you as long as possible to get updated information to give to the officers that are on the way.
Well, the reason I'm kind of poking at this is I know that law enforcement and firefighters and the EMTs, I know some they told me, hey, it's just hard to unplug at the end of the day. How's it like for you all taking this call after call, being with that person? What's it like trying to unwind from that, Deborah?
Holy hell. um, Difficult
Yeah.
to say the least, because you're not allowed to. So when you have an officer out on the street, he handles this horrific call. And then after he's done, he has a little bit of time, depending on what agency he's with. He has a little bit of time to process that and talk to people face to face, talk to his partner, talk to his sergeant, kind of to process. Firefighters are the same way. After they're done with the call, they go back to the station and they all sit around the kitchen table and they sit and talk. We're going call to call to call with no break in between and unable to process in between the calls. So you may be going from this shooting call and you're finally done, the officers are on scene, okay, and you're on to the next call, but the next call could be just what we would call an ordinary call, like an alarm company calling to report somebody's house alarm. And you're just going up and down the whole shift without any time to process what you've been through. And so dispatchers have more of a chance of trauma on the job than even cops and firefighters, because we're hearing it, we don't see it, and we don't process in between the calls.
Well, I had to think that, there's a cost to doing that job for a sustained period of time. Like if you can't process it right then, something's got to give somewhere.
Exactly. And um when I started in 1992 with Sacramento Police Department, it was still the time where suck it up, buttercup. If you can't handle this job, you don't need to be here. So you stuff everything down and keep stuffing everything down until the straw that breaks the camel's back. Um, and for me, that was in 2019 when I had an officer involved shooting where I lost a deputy. And
That
after
affected.
that, oh my gosh, I was diagnosed with PTSD after that. The psychiatrist also diagnosed the whole career along with it. So I have not only the PTS injury, but I also have what they call compound or complex PTS, which is from, a career of listening and not processing all of this.
Well, I was going to ask you, I mean, that was your situation in 2019. Did you, throughout your 28-year career, see other dispatchers come into the same situation, and what did they do?
We had one that retired out that was really difficult for her to retire out on mental health also. And that was several years before mine, where it was still, suck it up, buttercup, and oh, you don't get stressed. You just answer the phone. How can you be stressed out? You know, they not understanding the significance of what the job actually entails. They were just, oh, you're just girls and you're just answering the phone. How hard could that be?
Well, I guess my next question is, so when did it start to change that, like, oh wow, we put these individuals, these people, these women, these men in this situation for, months, years, days, whatever, and they have real problems, and we need them to be able to, be that first line of defense. When did that start changing, that perception of just suck it up?
Um, for us, we got the first indication of something like that back in 2015. We had a peer support meeting with a therapist after a critical incident, um, where they actually invited the dispatchers in to do that because we were right there when it happened. I was dispatching for a domestic violence call that ended up in the suspect barricading himself and shooting at my officers. So after that, a couple weeks after that, they brought us into what everybody nicknamed the Kumbaya meeting, where we all sat around and talked about our feelings, kind of thing. But that was the first indication in 2015 that there were changes happening within the profession itself.
Did you see any of these changes come to pass before you retired out, or was it,
Yes, very much so.
did you think it was a positive thing to see these changes finally come in, or was it like, where was this 10, 15, 20 years ago when we really needed it?
Right. So, as a comparison, in 2007, we had an officer involved shooting where we had three deputies shot, um, no loss of life. And I had called into dispatch to ask if they wanted me in early because I was going to be working that night, um, to relieve those dispatchers that were working. And I was told, nope, they have it. No need. Okay. And then let's flip forward to 2019, the night I had my shooting. We called in relief early to get me off the radio as soon as things had calmed down. We had a critical incident stress management debriefing within an hour of being relieved off the radios and phones for the whole shift.
Wow.
2 days later, we had another meeting with a therapist to come in, and they did it in small groups. So it wasn't patrol and everybody together. It was dispatchers, detectives, SWAT, patrol in smaller groups, which was so much better than what we had, 20 years prior or 10 years prior. So seeing that go, the short-term care for us in 2019 was excellent, the first couple months, but after that they dropped the ball. And that's so everybody that was involved in that incident, the three surviving deputies from that call and myself were all gone within a year.
Was it just because you weren't getting the help that you needed, or was it because that the job had over time taken a toll? You just, when you were like,
I was
okay,
gonna say I would say yes on both.
guess on both.
Because you have, with me, I had 28 years of all of this stuff, and then it finally just broke me. But also, the administration was trying to help out as much as they could, but they weren't educating the supervisors to recognize trauma. So I got stuck with a supervisor that took me down a disciplinary route. And when you're suffering from trauma or PTS injury specifically, you doing that just makes it worse. And
Did they think you were
nobody's
malingering or just trying to get you know, perform poorly? Why go that route?
Um, because I had anger issues afterwards, which anybody who's had PTSD has that after,
Okay.
I mean, that's part of because you're going through not only the stress, post-traumatic stress, but you're also grieving. There's a grief in that because you're grieving the person that just passed away, that was your friend, that was your coworker. So I had a lot of anger issues and I snapped at this supervisor because she kept micromanaging me and then said, because she felt that, that she took it personally rather than saying, "Hey, there's something wrong." Um, took me down the disciplinary route. And luckily, I had another supervisor that worked in there that was going to school to be a therapist. And she
Oh,
recognized what was going on. And she basically took me away from all the other stuff that was going on and got me help, got me into workman's comp, got me a psychiatrist, and got me on the healing road.
what was that healing road like when you finally got the support from your management and you were able to start healing?
Um, so it was really quick. I went on workman's comp in August, and the psychiatrist signed me off of work in October, and I didn't return to work after that. But the department did get me a scholarship. The deputy union got me a scholarship to go to a trauma retreat to, you know, try to help me out. My Luckily my medical insurance covered um mental health. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
going also to see my personal mental health person um, through the whole thing. But it was, after a couple months, it was everybody seemed to ignore me. No, there was nobody coming to find out how I was doing. Um, just kind of, and as soon as the workman's comp deemed me permanently disabled from doing that job, it was there was no contact,
Like that.
just like that. No, thank you for your service. No, kiss my ass. Just don't let the door hit you on the butt on the way out. And, you know,
You were done.
yeah. So I retired in June of 2021.
Okay, so it's July 2025, about 4 years later. What's the last 4 years been like for you then?
Oh my gosh. So a lot of therapy. I
Yeah.
still see a therapist. I have a weekly online support group that I go to called The Power of Our Story, which is free to first responders and veterans, which is awesome. So I get to talk to people around the country and have made some excellent connections and things like that. Um, I my 4-year-old grandson was born a month before I went out in 2020. So I've been doing childcare for him, and I think he's been the biggest help of all, giving me a reason to get up in the morning and seize the day. Uh, and he gets me
Let me ask you
outside.
something about being a grandparent. How is it like being a grandparent versus a parent? What's the feeling like, Debbie?
It's awesome
Really?
because when you're a parent, you're working, you're doing a job, you're trying to raise kids, and you don't get to spend time with those fabulous human beings. But as a grandparent and being retired, that's my job. I get to spend time with this fabulous little human being. And we have, I have an older granddaughter too, that kind of helped me through the initial in 2019. I kind of hung out with her a lot. It was nice just being around a little kid. Um, But this little guy and I have been just best buddies for the last 4.5 years, and it's just been fabulous. Uh, and he's taught me patience. He's given me the reason to get up in the morning, and he keeps me moving.
I have to wonder then, you have this legacy of family service. Did any of your children, or maybe it's too early to tell, your grandchildren, you think will follow in your footsteps?
My children did not, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all their own individual human beings, so that's good. But, it would be nice maybe to have one of my grandkids possibly uh go into public service, but you never know.
So we're talking with you about this aspect of public service. And, it's not really talked about a whole lot. Generally, the focus is on law enforcement and, first responders, EMTs, firefighters and the like, right? But we don't really hear about dispatchers. What do you want people to know about this? Because you're trying to raise awareness and it's not really thought about. So, what's the most important thing you want people to understand about the job you did and why it can impact you like this?
We don't just answer phones. We are trained professionals. We go and get training, you get the training on the job. You can't go to college for this job. You have to be a special kind of person to be a dispatcher. But you do go out to train in. We've had, I mean, good God, I can't. The amount of training that you get is incredible, and it's how to answer the phones, how to deal with the stress. I went to critical incident stress management classes. I've been to trainer classes, initial dispatcher classes that weren't part of, that were separate from the training that I got as a dispatcher at that department. Um, but we don't just answer phones, and we have to listen to people on their worst days. And I think that's the big one. Nobody calls the police because they want to thank you.
Well, yeah, hey, 911, I called because I hit 50,000 followers on my TikTok. That doesn't happen.
No, I mean, I've been stabbed, I've been robbed, I've been, something has happened to them, or they're having a really bad day, and we have to be, um, I kind of, we have to be part cop, part lawyer,
Oh,
part therapist, and part secretary to 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 get all of this. You have to know what information to take from these people, what you have to be 5 steps ahead of the officer that's on the way, so to know what he's going to be asking. You have to know geography, you have to know phone systems, you have to know computer systems, how to read warrants, how to read license information that comes back from DMV. There's so much as a dispatcher, and then having to deal with the trauma that you're hearing and try to process all of this information in a short period of time. And it just adds up year after year after year. It's a stressful job.
have you ever gotten the call from the mother and the father who are trying to go to the hospital to deliver a baby? Have you ever delivered a baby over the phone?
No, I was
Oh,
not so when we had a medical call, we transferred it to medical dispatch with Cal Fire. So they had more. I did law enforcement only. Um,
well, so I'm asking that because I have to think one, most, if not every call you got was something bad, as you said, happened. But was there ever a call where you're like, you know what, that person was on the edge and I brought them back? Was there ever a story about that?
I've had several people that would call and be in the middle of a panic attack.
Oh, well.
I had started my mental health journey actually in 2015, um, because I had open heart surgery and had things that happened there. But I had went to some mental health classes then, and learned how to bring somebody out of a panic attack. And so I used that at work. And that's another thing. If you're going to mental health classes, it's only a positive thing to bring with you to this type of job because you're actually helping people that way.
So you would tell a dispatcher out there that, hey, if your, precinct, if your town, county offers these classes, you should definitely go.
Oh, definitely. Even if, and these were through my health insurance. So when
Oh,
I
okay.
was, yeah, so I'm with Kaiser Permanente in California, and they have, when you're going to see a therapist, you get all sorts of classes offered to you. So I've been to depression, anxiety, work stress, um, mindfulness, all sorts of classes to teach me how to help myself. And in the process, it actually helped other people.
It just sounds like, what could have been a very detrimental situation actually was a way to, learn how to help others. You're
Oh,
you're
yeah.
out of this, you're out of this now. You have what, two grandchildren?
I have 10 grandchildren. They range in age from 20 to 3.
So that'll
Um,
keep you busy.
6 of them are back east, so I have not met them yet. But I have 4 out here. So my oldest out here is 10, and the youngest are 3. I have 3-year-old
Wow,
twins,
twins.
and then my 4-year-old grandson. So yeah,
Well, that puts a smile on your face.
it's it's just I love my grandkids. I really
Yeah,
do.
yeah. You've gone through the situation and you're able to now talk about why dispatchers need mental health resources just as much as, other first responders do. Have you, just from the outside looking in, seen that change in law enforcement? Because I still hear there's an aspect where, oh yeah, we're pro mental health resources for law enforcement and those people around there. But it's my understanding if you go into your chief and say, hey, I'm having an issue, they're still going to pull you off the line and put you behind a desk before they and really get a feel for how you're doing. Is that still the case, or how's the best way to handle that? I don't know.
Well, you can't really take a dispatcher off the line and put them at a desk job. Sorry, it
Right,
just
right. Well,
doesn't
that's the
work.
thing. I mean, for
But
for 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 a police officer, you can, but for you all,
well,
you
even
can't.
then, the tide is turning. It's a very slow one, but I see changes, but they're not coming fast enough or permanent enough. I mean, a lot of departments will just say, yes, we have peer support. Yes, we have this. Yes, we have that. Yes, we sent them on critical incident stress management. They're just checking the boxes. They're not being proactive as far as getting their people mental health. What I would really love to see is therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists on staff with law enforcement departments, with fire departments, so that people have someone they can go to rather than the EAP, because EAP is not working. They only give you 3 to 5 free. You
Yeah,
can't you can't get rid of a lifetime of trauma and stress in 5 visits. There has to be a long-term solution. But there are groups out there that are helping. Um, the Power of Our Story, the Overwatch Collective, Warrior's Heart, um, West Coast Post Trauma Retreat, which is opening up more places around the country. Um, but those are private. They're not, you know, they're run by donations and they're
right.
and such. But having people from their first day of employment expect that they need to find a therapist, psychologist, or whatnot in that first year would be huge. You know, teach this at the academies, teach mental health issues at the academies, and not just a 4 hour block of instruction, a 40-hour week. Get in there and teach them stress management and how to care for themselves when the poo hits the fan, you know? Because otherwise we're going to continue on and we're going to start, I mean, we're losing a lot of people now just from stress, leaving their jobs. And we're not getting enough people back in to fill up those positions.
Do you feel that would change if it was very widely known that, hey, as a dispatcher, if you have these issues, we have a support system there for you that's not punitive, that's not disciplinary,
Mm-hmm.
and that is actually there to make you more resilient and better at your job?
Oh, absolutely. You know, if that was part of it, it it would definitely help, you know. Um, but masking it and pretending it's not there is not going to work anymore.
What's next for you at this point of your life? Do you want to really lean into this kind of advocacy, or is it just, you know what, I've gotten help and I want to make sure somebody else hears the story and has help?
I've been doing this since 2022 now,
Okay.
going on podcasts and telling my story to try to reach that one person. I reached one person. Now I'm off to find, you know, second, third, fourth, fifth, somebody that my story is going to resonate with that will say, hey, that happened to me. She got help. She's doing better. Maybe I should get help. And I'm just going to continue telling my story and until I die, maybe.
Well, I think you
You
said
know,
something
I
very
mean,
interesting. It is about the power of one person and saving that one life. I think that's a very powerful way. I mean, I think it's just been, really interesting. I not that I didn't think about it. I know it's worked, but I didn't think about the role and but thereby plight of the first responder providing this kind of care, if you will, to the community. It
mhm.
takes something out of you.
Oh gosh, yeah. You know, I'm not the same person I was when I started this in 1986. The job changes you, and how you deal with it, you can change it to the good or the bad.
Yeah.
You know, we're losing so many officers to and firefighters to suicide now that it's not good. LA lost 4 in 24 hours to suicide. Chicago keeps having the same. You know, that's not good. We need to get down to our frontline guys and say, "Hey, us people up here in what the Chicago calls the ivory tower, we care about you. Let's do something." You know? And
So, oh, go ahead.
oh no, no, go ahead.
How can people do you want people to contact you about coming on and talking with them? If someone is looking for resources, do you have you know, a way
Oh.
to guide them? Is that your direction now?
Um trying to get my story out there, promoting. I'm in the Power of Our Story, which is the support group, and I'm always putting that out there for people to come and join us and talk, and you know, we're a safe space. Um we're first responders and veterans and civilians who are what we call bridge builders. So we a lot of mental health coaches and things like that are members. There is a book that they put out. Let me show you. It's called Wounds to Wisdom,
Wounds to wisdom.
and
Okay.
it's 29 of our members did a chapter, and it's definitely have Kleenex when you
Oh wow.
when you read it because there's some powerful stories in that. And there's two dispatchers, a bunch of veterans, some cops, and yeah, it's a great book. Um, but find places that fit you. You know, it's not going to be a one time. If one doesn't fit you, then Move on to the next. First Responders Support Network is a huge spot for information. They have therapists, they have groups, they have all sorts of information for people. And if you go to that website, they can really help you out.
So you have these resources. I'll get with you and get the links in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. I just want to thank you for sharing with us, Debbie. I learned so much today that I didn't know about the role of a dispatcher and the price you all pay to take care of us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, again, Debbie is part of our Countdown to 500. I'm going to have the links to some of these resources in the Oscar Mike Radio website post. And if you have a podcast, I've had a great time talking with Debbie. Have her on yours. Debbie, I want to thank you for coming on with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Well, there you go, folks. Countdown to 500. And also look, ask for help, get the help you need. And as we say, we are mission in flight.
The biggest fear Gold Star families have that their child will be forgotten.
We need to never forget freedom wasn't free.
It's the fact that they give us the life we have now. We should remember them and give thanks to them.
If I can be a part of something today that's going to make the surviving family of any of these veterans, these heroes, feel better tomorrow, then it's worth it.
That one wreath symbolizes one family that was able to smile because of the generous donations.
To sponsor a wreath and honor a veteran, visit wreathsacrossamerica.org.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load Co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis